on Prime Crime.
My name is Chloe Driver. It's 11/27/2020. I am being forced to get into a truck with Benyamin Ben-Michael to see my daughter again because he has kept her away from me. I do not know where she is.
In a polygamist cult,
I think there's a baby that just died. You know what happened? I'm not sure.
a baby girl and her mother are violently stabbed.
I want to know if my baby survived ASAP.
Is this a case of bitter jealousy among sister wives?
She did make varying statements about the tension between her and the other wives.
Or a tragic mental health crisis?
She'll scream and she's like, I have to go, I have to go, I have to get out of here. And she'd start screaming and she would just completely lose her mind.
Hey there everybody, I'm Jesse Weber and welcome to Prime Crime, where we break down some of the most compelling and memorable true crime cases from across the country. When the baby daughter and wife of a polygamist cult leader are found brutally stabbed, police want to know who did it and why. But the villain in this story is the last person you'd expect.
Jesse, what's going on? I think there's a baby that just died, and I think there was a woman responsible for it, and can you have any idea what's come here? You think a baby died? I don't believe she's breathing. I don't believe she's breathing. I don't believe she know what happened. I'm not sure. I think that she was split across the throat. I believe she was split across the throat. I believe so. Did you know why? I do not know why.
Cherokee County, Georgia, in the greater Atlanta area. What starts as a quiet morning quickly turns deadly.
So on December 8th, 2020, I heard over the radio a call come out that there was a baby and a mother had been stabbed, the baby in the neck, possibly deceased at the point, we didn't know, and the mother still gurgling.
Now, where was the baby stabbed at?
In the bedroom.
Where at on the body?
On the neck, right across the neck.
Across the neck, like she split the baby's neck?
Yes.
Is there any serious bleeding?
There's so much blood.
So I got quickly into my car and headed to the scene. It was a normal community in the suburbs. We've never even been called out there for anything larger than a domestic verbal. So it was very shocking when I got a call from that specific subdivision. So when I actually went upstairs, it was kind of chaotic. There was a lot of people there at the time. All I saw was blood everywhere. There was blood on the bed, the sheets, the ground. There was blood on the walls. There was blood on two individuals, and there was a baby and a mother. So at first, when I went in there, I thought that maybe somebody had did that to her. By the time I got there, the baby had been taken away to the ER already, and the mother was just being taken out.
As detectives interview the other people in the house, an astonishing story starts to unfold.
Chloe Driver was 20 years old. She had been in a relationship with Brian Joyce, who also went by the name Benyamin Ben-Michael, since she was about 17 years old. At that time, he was in his late 30s. She had a child, Hannah, with Mr. Joyce.
Benyamin was a polygamist. So in addition to Chloe, who was the first wife, he had apparently taken at least 2 additional wives.
And then subsequent to them both coming along, Jason Spillers, the final individual, also joined the group, and they all sort of lived as a family unit, albeit a polygamist situation that was sort of religiously rooted. The dynamics of the relationships and their belief system were that the males were the leaders of the home and that the females were in a more subservient role. They were nomadic. They did not live anywhere specifically. They were a traveling lifestyle group. They went to Connecticut, they went to Virginia, several other places, including Florida.
At the time of the murder, this family, this polygamist family, was caravanning from North Carolina down to Florida. And they had stopped midway in Georgia, apparently at a friend of Benjamin's, to pick up some belongings that they might want.
In that house on December 8th, 2020, baby Hannah and her mother, Chloe Driver, are found stabbed in an upstairs bedroom.
Hannah was stabbed 3 times in the neck area, and then in the back area near almost her heart, like that side of her heart. And then Chloe in the neck area, and then on her body. And you can tell that Hannah had lost a lot of blood. The baby was called deceased at the hospital. The doctor said she was empty of blood, and that was because, she was there stabbed for a long time, and she was a little baby.
Hannah did not survive her injuries, but Chloe Driver did.
The day after the incident happened, I actually went to the hospital, and at this point I had interviewed everybody that was in the home. So I kind of gathered the information, but was a little skeptical as to what they were telling me.
Hey Chloe, my name is Detective Cruz. I'm here because I have a search warrant, okay? But I'm here with kind of DNA sample, a swab on your hand, and then the inner cheek, okay? And that's basically how the DNA sample is saying that you are her mom, all right? So just confirm that you and Miss Young and our parents.
Sergeant Cruz records the visit on a body-worn camera.
We took a search warrant for your phone too, okay? Because we thought that Benyamin was spreading the news. And so we took your phone with him to make sure that's not happening, okay? We wanted to make sure that there's nothing on that cell phone that says he's been hurting you, he's been violent towards you, he cut you. So we wanted to make sure of that.
She was laid up in a hospital bed. She had a trachea in her throat, and she had several machines on her, just looking at her blood pressure, her health-wise, and just monitoring her as far as what had happened to her. And so I was concerned that she wouldn't be able to talk to me at all.
Because you can't speak to me currently, is why I don't want to talk, okay? I want you to be able to say, well, you can write stuff down? You want to write stuff down? Okay, we can do that. We can do that. Let me get something right away, okay?
But she wanted to talk, and she let me know that she can actually write stuff down. And I was like, okay.
You want to ask a question, write it down, and then I'll read it out loud and I'll answer the questions. You want to do that? She said, I want to know if my baby survived 80 seconds. That's one question. I want to know who is staying with her. That's the second question. Okay. And I'm going to answer both for you. Your baby did not survive, okay? Your baby did not make it, all right? Your baby is currently sitting in autopsy now. Find out what actually happened to her body. Immediately, she did not suffer. Of course, you have to help you. Who did that to you? Did your husband do that to you? He didn't do it, I did.
When she said, no, I did it, and she was very forthcoming about it, I was kind of taken aback. And I was a little shocked that a mother who loved her child so dearly would do that to her child.
Chloe Driver tells the shocking story of how she claims to have killed her own baby at the home of a friend.
I was going insane and no longer wanted to be with friends, but kept coming back for him. I only wanted my baby and husband, but he refused.
Just the things that she would say kind of threw me off too, saying that she did it with her own free mind and like nobody forced her to do stuff like that.
How long will my prison sentence be for killing him? I couldn't answer that. You know why? I'm not your judge and I'm not your jury, okay? I'm only a mere detective collecting evidence.
The next day, Sergeant Cruz returns. Together, they call Chloe Driver's husband, Benyamin Ben-Michael.
He wants to know what happened.
When did you go down again at night? Why?
It felt safest, then I felt horrible. I went because I had no choice.
So you went to get toys, you returned for the night. You always had a choice. I don't know why you felt like you had no choice. Why did you feel like you had no choice?
Because I couldn't handle being with the group anymore. And you left no alternative. with the certain threat.
In the hospital, the day after she murdered Hannah, she made statements about what motivated her crime. She indicated to law enforcement at that time that she didn't want to be with all of those people anymore. She made statements that I just want my husband and my baby. I don't want his friends.
You refuse to listen. And how many times did I think how I felt would know if I remained in that state? I screamed and said, and you didn't take me seriously.
And Ms. Driver's own statements were that essentially her actions were motivated by her becoming more and more frustrated with the realities of the situation that she was in and all the people that Mr. Joyce was collecting, so to speak, to join the group.
Anything else before letting go? No? He said no. All right, thank you so much, Ben. I have questions, okay? Are the cuts on your hand from that night or from something different? Probably? Okay. What about your black eye? Tell me what happened here. I don't remember. I don't know. Okay. Was it because of the situation that you were triggered that day? Or why is it the same? They for almost 2 months in fact divorce and nobody cared at all.
She asked multiple times for help, multiple times for services. And so it was like people were not listening to her. And I think she got to the breaking point. And instead of harming the people that were harming her, she harmed the person who she loved the most.
I just want to die with much. I understand. You tell me what you want to do. I'm here for you. I want to go home live, and I'm required to stay here. You're required to stay here because you're still hurt. That's all. Okay? Is there a way to leave earlier? There isn't a way to leave earlier. Okay? Because what you did, okay, I can't make you go, and I can't let you go. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat that.
I arrested her there at the hospital while she was being discharged.
So she was charged with malice murder, and then she was also charged with felony murder, with the underlying felonies being aggravated assault with a knife and cruelty to children in the first degree. And then also she was charged with the underlying offenses of aggravated assault and cruelty to children.
She was never released on bail, yes. She was held in jail at that point at the Cherokee County ADC Center.
In anticipation of the trial, investigators continue to piece together the facts in the case.
I wanted to know what led up to the days prior, so I needed to collect every single piece of evidence that I could to see how they got there. From what I gathered from her parents, Chloe had had issues growing up as far as cutting, just not being all there sometimes. They thought it was just a phase for her, but never actually sought mental health for her. So she grew up having to deal with this on her own. So she did leave her family at a young age to be with Ben-Michael. It seemed like he was in love with her, she was in love with him.
Benjamin appears to be a very handsome and engaging man, so I can see where to a naive 17-year-old girl, especially that was unstable with a history of mental health problems, having this somewhat handsome older man take an interest in her and making her feel very special certainly could have really drawn her in at that time.
He did have a very charming nature. I can see why she would love to be around him and listen to him intently and do as he told her to do. He was very authoritative, but also he was very loving and affectionate towards them, from what I gathered from the other two women.
Now, when Benjamin then went on to collect 2 other wives and may have then been planning to get some more wives, and you know, babies come along, all of this might have been a little jolting and jarring for Chloe.
I think that she thought maybe this would work at first, and then determined that it was not working for her, and that she just wanted to be a family. She just wanted him and her baby, and she didn't want all the additional parties involved.
She did make varying statements about the tension between her and the other wives.
I think she said at some point that they made her feel like something was wrong. They weren't very loving towards her. She almost felt like they were doing the mean girl thing. So I think that played into her psyche as well.
And the story just gets stranger.
This polygamist cult group had some very radical and bizarre beliefs that included things like alternative healing practices, as well as apparently drinking their own urine.
They did believe in urine therapy and the benefits of drinking their own urine. It was a practice that I believe everybody in the group partook in. They also did things like sensory deprivation, meditation, like going into dark rooms and no light or sound or interaction with the outside world as a way of sort of centering their mind and their body.
Chloe apparently had a belief that the baby was in some way born in sin. Maybe Chloe was having some doubts about this lifestyle that she was living, and she apparently believed that through her breast milk, she was, quote, downloading sin to the baby.
From interviews with Chloe Driver and the others in the household, investigators also learn exactly what happened on the day of the stabbings.
When they got to the residence, Ms. Driver went to one of the bedrooms with the baby, Hannah, who was 13 months old at the time, and subsequently went to the kitchen of the residence, retrieved a knife out of the knife block, went back up to the bedroom, locked herself in the room, and repeatedly stabbed Hannah and then stabbed herself.
Benyamin and his friend Jason, who were just outside moving some things into a van, and then they heard a lot of very loud shouts and screams coming from inside, but the doors were locked in dramatic fashion, and so they had to kick the door down.
We're gonna have to try and stop this bleeding, okay? Okay. Yep, we're gonna stop the bleeding. I'm gonna tell you how to stop the bleeding. We'll suggest to make sure we do it right. Get a clean, dry cloth or towel and tell me when you have it, okay? Yes, we got a shirt. Directly on the room and press down the room. Okay, keep the towel, keep the shirt on there, hold it really tight. Okay, here it comes as soon as you can. Keep blowing air into her mouth. Okay, keep doing that, okay, but you gotta keep that bleeding controlled, all right? Okay, get you awake. I don't believe so.
I don't know that anybody's ever going to be able to get into the mind of Ms. Driver in the moment that she stabbed her baby to death. The dispute, I think, really became, was it mental illness or was it insanity, and did the insanity laws fit?
By the way, here at Law&Crime, we're all about safety. And you know what a big issue is right now? AI. I mean, have you thought about what AI platforms are really doing with your conversations? You wouldn't just hand your private thoughts, your business ideas, your sensitive questions to a random corporation, right? Well, that is exactly what happens when you use mainstream AI tools. Your data gets stored, analyzed, and even sold. And look, here's the thing. This is why we have now partnered with Venice AI, a proud sponsor of Prime Crime. Now, Venice AI is a private, permissionless, generative AI platform that doesn't spy on you or censor you. Your messages are encrypted, your history just stays in your browser, not on some corporate server. And Venice AI's Pro plan unlocks powerful features that keep your data and personal information secure, like uploading private or sensitive PDFs for instant summaries or unrestricted image or text generation. So right now, you can go to venice.ai/law&crime and use code law&crime to enjoy private, uncensored AI, and using this code will get you 20% off a Pro plan.
The issues in this case were the act she committed against this defenseless child and whether or not she met the elements of Georgia's insanity defense.
2 years after Chloe Driver stabbed her baby daughter Hannah to death, her case goes to trial. Her lawyers argue she's not guilty by reason of insanity. The prosecution disagrees.
I think what was clear from the outset of this case is that there really wasn't a dispute as to whether or not she committed the act. So it was really kind of came down to either she was guilty or she was guilty but mentally ill, or she was not guilty by reason of insanity. And there are two ways that insanity can be proven under the laws of the state of Georgia. One is that the question of did she have the capacity to distinguish right from wrong? And then the other is did she suffer under the compulsion of delusions? And the other piece of that is would the delusions, if true, have legally justified the act. The state's position was that even if we viewed everything in the light most favorable to the defendant, it was not the insanity defense.
As the trial begins, in order to understand who the players are, you have to know that everyone involved in the group had an alternative name.
Chloe Driver, the defendant, went by Kuwani. Hannah, the baby, they called her Nimsi. And Brian Joyce, his given name and legal name was Brian Joyce, but he did change it to Benyamin Ben-Michael. And close companions of him did refer to him as Z. The other women also had alternative names. It was just part of their belief system where they assigned religious names to one another.
A friend of theirs, who's currently serving time on unrelated charges himself, takes the stand.
When we were talking about the sort of the social dynamic of polygamy and sort of your interest in that when you met Z,
Yes.
What did you observe about sort of his treatment of the women or their interaction and treatment toward him? Like, what was that?
I observed a very beautiful, healthy relationship.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
All, like, they would wake up every morning and talk about feelings, you know, which I thought was really cute. I was actually a little surprised at the amount, like the absence of like petty argument and jealousy, you know, because you have to kind of expect that.
He sort of described it as a very peaceful existence with women who really enjoyed the dynamics of the group. Obviously, that was quite different than the picture that was painted by Ms. Driver.
The friend also has a lot to say about Chloe Driver's personality and the changes he saw in her leading up to her daughter's killing.
Kawani was an excellent mother. She was attentive. She was warm and nurturing and loving. I never heard her say, "I'm going to hurt the baby." I never heard her say, "I'm going to kill the baby." I heard her talk about hurting herself a lot.
Okay.
I heard her talk about committing suicide. I watched her injure herself by punching herself in the face many times. You could tell, like, I could always tell it in her eyes when she would, like, she'd be in a certain place and then something would trigger her and she would just lose it.
What do you mean she would lose it? What would she do?
Gosh, all kinds of things. So this day, she was in there and she'd start shaking and, like, you know, attacking Z and attacking the other girls, and she just tried to attack me before. And never the baby, though. That needs to be clear. Never the baby.
But just a couple of weeks before Hannah's death, that seems to change.
Kawani's delusions go from "I'm in danger," these things, to "the baby's in danger," to "the baby's gonna die, they're gonna take," to "a dead baby." Mm-hmm. You know, like that's what just happened.
Chloe Driver's husband was apparently so concerned for the baby's safety that he took her from his wife.
This was about Thanksgiving or a couple days prior to Thanksgiving that he had taken the baby away from her. And the reason that he gave me for taking the baby was that she attempted to cut the baby. And so this was an incident where he was like, "This is not gonna happen. You're mentally unstable. I'm gonna take the baby away." And he had taken the baby away from her for several days.
Driver reaches out to her parents for help. At the time, she and her group are in Asheville, North Carolina. Her mother testifies about the incident, but chooses to remain off camera.
Tell us what happened on November 26th of 2020.
Was that Thanksgiving Day?
Yes, ma'am.
I received some alarming texts from Chloe, which I woke my husband up and I said that we need to go to Asheville.
You were concerned enough by the information you had received from Chloe at that time that you immediately dropped what you were doing and got in the car?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened when you arrived in Asheville?
Chloe was there. She was distraught. She was crying. She was very upset because Brian had taken off with Hannah.
Okay. So when you got there, Hannah was not there?
Hannah was not there.
Did you know where Hannah was at that point in time?
No idea.
Okay. And what did you do next?
After everything was all settled and done with, we ended up leaving Asheville without Hannah, and when we brought Chloe
back to your house in Knoxville?
Yes.
Okay. And when you got back to Knoxville, is that the first time you kind of became aware of everything that had been going on?
Yes.
She was in contact with her family, just not on a regular basis. But she did contact them when she got pregnant, and they knew that she was going to have a baby.
The evidence that we had was she distanced herself from her family and really leaned in hard to this sort of pretty radical cult situation with Mr. Joyce and the other wives, and that really distanced her from her parents and the other support systems that she had.
What was her demeanor or when she was with you over Thanksgiving and the time thereafter? Can you describe like her affect or what you noticed about her?
She was a mess because Hannah wasn't there, but she was relieved because she was at home. At least that's what I thought. That's what I saw.
Did she appear tired or distressed or?
She always appeared tired. She always appeared hungry, just lost, confused.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, she wasn't.
She was hopeless.
She was hopeless?
Yes.
You took a video of Chloe on November 27th. Do you recall that?
I do.
My name is Chloe Driver. It's 11/27/2020. I am being forced to get into a truck with Benyamin Ben-Michael or Brian Joyce to see my daughter again because he has kept her away from me. I do not know where she is and he won't tell me anything, and I'm being forced to get in the car and go with him to be able to see her, and I don't even know if I'm actually going straight to her, but I'm doing whatever I think I can to get to her.
So I did see the video. My impression was it was staged. It was very premeditated as well. Because I had spoken to Ben-Michael before I received that video, he had told me the backstory on what had happened prior to him taking baby Hannah from Chloe. So I had already known why he had took the baby away from her. And so the video just didn't seem very organic to me. It did seem a little scripted. It seemed like she was doing that for attention from him, but also trying to get her parents to help her.
Even after that video that was her mom made, she did return to him willingly after that video was recorded.
You said it was a couple of days maybe she was with her parents, and then Z went and got her and she came back to the group?
She came back, yeah, she did.
Okay. And when she came back, what was her demeanor like?
Her whole like air had become different. Like she was like really like frustrated with herself. Like she was just like frustrated with what's happening, and she was sad. I don't know if she just got this idea in her head about Nimsy after that. When Nimsy died on December the 8th, that day was kind of like a breaking point. Like that's what just happened.
But what caused Chloe Driver to possibly snap? And did she really break with reality? Or had she been planning this?
In line item 1, what do we see was searched and on what date?
How to snap a neck, and that was on December the 2nd of 2020.
Okay, and had that same term been searched on prior dates?
Yes, also on November the 30th of 2020.
Hey, I want to quickly thank Odoo for sponsoring Prime Crime. And if you don't know what it is, Odoo is an incredible all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications. And one of my favorite applications is their Projects app. Look, managing projects can be tough, but with Odoo Projects app, it doesn't have to be. You need a clear timeline? The Gantt view maps out tasks, helps you stay on track. Maybe you like a more flexible approach? The Kanban view lets you move tasks easily from to-do to done. Or if you like structure, the list view gives you all the details at a glance. Plus, Odoo's comprehensive dashboard keeps you updated on task status, activities, remaining time, so you're always in control. And with powerful reporting tools, you can track your project's budget, milestones, and profitability in real time. The Odoo Projects app helps you stay organized, meet deadlines, and boost productivity. So right now, you can get a 15-day trial of Odoo's all-in-one business solution, and you can see how it makes your life easier. Scan the QR code on screen or check it out at our link, odoo.com/primecrimeproject.
When you looked at her Google searches, she had been researching how to kill someone for a number of weeks.
Chloe Driver's insanity defense unravels when the state calls a witness with damning evidence that flips this case on its head.
What are we looking at here?
So this is an extraction report that I generated. And so the searched item was kill. And so this is the report that the UFED reader generated.
Okay, so you were able to go into that UFED reader
do a search term for the word kill, and these were the things that populated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in item number 1, the left column where they're numbered, what was the term searched on her phone?
Killing somebody to save them.
Okay. And what was the date of that?
November the 25th of 2020.
That was about 2 weeks before Chloe's baby, Hannah Driver, died.
I think the month prior is when she started searching things. She searched things such as leaving with a baby with no passport. She looked at bus tickets to put a baby on a bus by themselves. Am I going to hell for being with a man who is married? Just weird searches, but also searches like killing a baby.
And then in web history, does it also show websites that are visited?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So in line 2, what was the sort of website that was visited in relation to the search term neck?
It's www.quora.com. And it returned how hard is it to kill someone by twisting their neck. And then it says movies make it look really easy. How much force would be needed?
If you're searching things like that, you already are contemplating on doing something. You already put into place things that you want to do. So that's why I thought it was pre-planned, this whole incident.
But defense witnesses refute that. Instead of someone plotting a murder, they depict Chloe Driver as a victim.
Did you believe that Miss Driver was suffering from delusional compulsions during this time frame?
I believe she was experiencing delusions.
The psychologist who testified for the defense did testify to potential diagnoses of bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, magical thinking, and delusions.
She would see a knife just lying out in somebody's kitchen where it's supposed to be. And she would see that and she would interpret that as, that's a sign that I need to kill myself. Kill myself and my baby, cut somebody, cut her throat, cut my throat. So she had a lot of that was going back at least a month or 2 before this actually happened.
Certainly, nobody can claim to know whether Chloe was making it up when she said that she saw knives that she imagined to be signs that she was supposed to do these murders. But even if it were true, it would not meet the legal standard for delusional compulsion or compulsion delusion.
On cross-examination, the prosecution presses the point further that delusions or not, Chloe knew the difference between right and wrong.
Are you aware that one of her first inquiries while in the hospital was, how long will my prison sentence be for killing her?
I have heard that.
Is that consistent with her statements to you about her ability to distinguish between right and wrong?
She did state to me that she knew that it was wrong, but she also stated, I was at peace because it's how it's supposed to be.
There's no evidence to suggest, in my view, that Chloe didn't understand right from wrong. In fact, the opposite.
Isn't it true that she told you that she apologized to her daughter before she repeatedly stabbed her in the neck?
She did say that she apologized.
I have nothing further.
But the defense pushes forward, and they call another psychologist to the stand.
This jury has previously heard Dr. Garrett testify, so I'm going to ask some follow-up questions. Do you recall her telling you anything about her attempts to get help?
Yes. She said she was frequently saying that she needed help. I'm losing my mind, I need help. One particular time, on more than one occasion, she said she was afraid she was going to hurt herself or Hannah and that she needed help and that she was ignored.
Mr. Ben-Michael, he actually was self-diagnosing her when I was speaking to him. So he was trying to be the doctor for her.
It was clear that they did not believe in modern medicine, nor taking any kinds of medication.
Was the lack of medication and treatment over time what kind of exacerbated those delusions, those thoughts and those compulsions?
I mean, part of it is lack of treatment. Treatment would have helped. Part of it was she was living in a really stressful, abusive environment that would make her mental health decline.
I think there was an effort by the defense to sort of distance Ms. Driver from any responsibility, even when she over and over and over again demonstrated her free will in making decisions that put her in the situations that she found herself in.
There's plenty of evidence to suggest that Chloe had every opportunity to leave the relationship. At the time of her arrest, in her purse, Chloe had $1,000. She had a cell phone. She also had a bank account in her name with $65,000 in it.
She was kind of conflicted about whether she wanted to stay or go. She wanted to be with him, but she likely wanted all the other people to be excluded from the situation.
What were you able to essentially diagnose her with based on all of the things that you reviewed in this particular case?
I diagnosed her with schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type, and also with borderline personality disorder.
It's important to emphasize people with borderline personality disorder are not known for murdering babies, and they are not known for, creating what may be these manipulative types of delusions.
And Chloe Driver's behavior behind bars throughout her trial doesn't help her case.
She had initiated a relationship with another individual who she communicated with both via phone calls and text messages. When she would return to the county jail after each day of the trial, she would engage in very graphic sexual conversations with this individual who she was in a relationship with. We were watching jurors sob hysterically over having to see her daughter slaughtered in those photographs, and then hearing her return to the jail and say things like, "I'm stressed, talk dirty to me." The sort of just very casual sexual nature of her conversations during the pendency of this very challenging, difficult, and visually graphic trial was alarming, and something that we felt was certainly relevant for the court's consideration about sort of her level of remorse.
After about a week, Chloe Driver's trial winds down with closing arguments.
She does not meet the definition of criminal insanity based upon delusional compulsion. Because if she was suffering under delusions when she was in that room, the only delusions related to needing to save Hannah, not to Hannah being a threat that would justify her actions under the law.
So the example the prosecutor gave, for example, is if Chloe had believed that her baby was a demon that was going to jump up and murder Chloe, then it may have, if the delusion were true, justified Chloe taking action against the baby.
Then she would be legally justified in defending herself against Hannah because she perceived Hannah to be an immediate threat to her safety. But that wasn't the nature of her delusions.
We had no dispute whatsoever about the facts as to what happened to Hannah Driver on December 8th of 2020. We all agreed that the events that occurred that day are nothing short of a tragedy. The only question has always been why. It's always been about Chloe Driver being a young, naive individual with a pre-existing mental health condition that had been previously undiagnosed, mostly based on her age. It has always been about the years of abuse, the coercive control, and living in this cult mentality that exacerbated these mental illnesses.
What was presented by the defense, I guess I will say, was that she was helpless and that she was not responsible for her actions.
Now I want to be clear. A finding of not guilty by reason of insanity does not mean that she walks out of this courtroom or is not held accountable for her actions that day. It means that she is committed to the state hospital to get the treatment she needs. Justice in this case for Hannah is getting her mother the treatment she so desperately needs.
There was a lot of effort to paint her out as a sympathetic party, but really the issues in this case were the act she committed against this defenseless child and whether or not she met the elements of Georgia's insanity defense.
Now, the jury holds Chloe Driver's fate in their hands, and the decision is anything but simple.
On the verdict form, obviously the jury had some options. They either could choose guilty, not guilty. They could choose guilty but mentally ill, or not guilty by reason of insanity. That is pretty unique. So it is atypical for the jury to have 4 options on the verdict form.
Mr. Foreman, if you will stand, Ms. Driver and counsel, if you will stand, if you will read the jury's verdict, please.
The jury reached a verdict in about 3 hours, I believe. It was fairly fast. I think that was a pretty rapid verdict for a case like this.
For each count below, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of mentally ill.
She was found guilty but mentally ill of all counts in the indictment. The guilty but mentally ill verdict by the jury, it really doesn't change anything in terms of the length of her sentence, and it doesn't change anything with regard to her being sentenced to the Department of Corrections, just as any other murder defendant would be. What it does is it gives the Department of Corrections more options for treating her mental health.
Ms. Driver, you can come to the lectern and make any kind of statement that you'd like to.
I am terribly sorry for many things in my life, but most of all for who was lost, and I always will be. Every single day I live with my guilt. In the past, I genuinely believed I had to die every day for my daughter, to hate myself for my failure in protecting her. But I know now that life goes on whether I suffer or not.
There seemed to be almost illusions of a belief in herself still as the victim, right? That nobody could, understand how hard this was for her.
It's easy to review the past and say what could have been done differently. It's even easier to say what someone should have done. But that's just it. In the midst of a terrifying situation, you can't actually think. The horror and fear you feel clouds your thinking abilities and disconnects you from reality.
So her husband, Benyamin, the father of the child, his victim impact statement certainly was compelling.
By 13 months old, she was so beautiful. This is me and Hannah together. You can see, if you want to see her nature, that's her nature. She was excited and happy and engaging, and she'd come up to you and want to just learn everything. She'd want to touch you and smile. She'd want to get inside you and let you know that you should be happy too. The impact of losing Hannah Nicole, Driver Ben-Michael, cannot be measured. That this woman believed that she was entitled to take my daughter's life out of this world.
He was very accusatory, and he was very clear that he didn't necessarily think that she was going to be able to change.
Nothing that actually happened to her would ever change her. I don't know that no sentence, maximum sentence, could ever get through to her in a way that she won't build a new identity, a new mask, change who she is, manipulate the next party.
I do think it's interesting that her partner and the father of the child did not see her as somebody that could be rehabilitated, and he didn't seem to have any interest in supporting her in any way at all.
I don't know what kind of a sentence would help her. She believed she could take the life of a baby out of this world, any baby, and this beautiful baby who had this much potential to help the world, an impact that can't be weighed.
The judge sentences Chloe Driver, with the 3 lesser counts vacated or merged with the charges of malice murder and cruelty to children.
You did a horrible thing, but based on the evidence at trial and based on particularly the mental health testimony, the court will impose the following sentence as to count 1, malice murder, life in prison with the possibility of parole. Also, as to count 5, the court imposes a sentence of 20 years to serve in the prison system concurrent with count 1.
So as to the malice murder, she would have to serve at least 30 years before being eligible for parole. And the cruelty to children in the first degree count, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but that 20 years will run concurrent with her malice murder conviction.
So I hope that Chloe does get the care that she needs, whatever that may be. And sometimes accountability in itself can be a form of care, a form of coming to terms. But whether or not she'll really ever truly take accountability, I think remains to be seen.
It was a very difficult set of circumstances. I think it's impossible to work a case like this and have it not affect you. And seeing those things, certainly you will never forget them. They certainly do have an adverse impact on your well-being. Of course, this case had an impact on me.
This case made me realize how important victims are, how important their story is to get out. So when I tell people this case changed me, it changed everything about me. Emotionally, it changed the way I think about life. It changed the way I think about policing. It made me want to have kids, honestly. It made me want to show somebody so much love that some people didn't receive in their own lives. So it really changed me as a person too.
This is such a sad case. It's almost incomprehensible that a mother could kill her own child. It's hard to make sense of it. But maybe the only justice for baby Hannah is that her mother gets the help that she needs. That's all we have for you here on this episode of Prime Crime. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jesse Weber, and as always, stay safe.